Trump is trying to feed his fundraising machine, trying to feed the right-wing media ecosystem, and he does that because it's where he's been successful in the last 7 or 8 years. When he feeds that outrage machine, he is successful politically.
Now, Donald Trump's reaction to his fourth criminal indictment is perhaps unsurprising, branding it a witch hunt and politically motivated. But if you cut through the headlines, the decision by prosecutors in Georgia to charge him, along with 18 associates, with attempts to overturn the 2020 presidential election, these charges could become a lot more of a headache for the former president. As Washington correspondent Alistair Dorber writes in today's Times, he has no way of cancelling these charges or sacking the prosecutor, as he can with other charges if he becomes president again. So where does this leave Donald Trump? We're going to speak to Laura Schwartz, a former advisor to Bill Clinton, in the next few minutes, and also former Bush advisor Rick Wilson. The charges that Donald Trump is facing in Georgia, just explain those to us. And of course, he's not on his own. He's got these 18 associates as well.
Well, right. It really is, as they are saying, an enterprise, that he may have been the kingpin of this, but you've got 18 defendants in addition to Donald Trump and 41 charges. So what we're looking at is not just Donald Trump sitting in that courtroom, but 19 people in total that were involved in different ways. Now, the minimum sentence for a RICO violation, which is the racketeering, which is the overall enterprise in which they are charging all of them with, has a minimum of 5 years in prison if convicted. Now, some of these other 18 co-defendants maybe didn't play as big of a role as far as culpability. So that would be at the discretion of the judge to decide if they got, just that 5-year minimum, or if somebody else playing a larger role got a larger sentence. If, again, found guilty. Right now, all of these defendants are presumed innocent. That's what they get according to our Constitution. And that is what we will see play out in the coming months. Now, the DA, Fani Wilson, would like to take this to trial within the next 6 months, which could be very difficult to do with that many defendants. But I think what we'll see her office do is break this down into chapters, break this down into a story. Who did what at what time, to really take a jury through what they have found in their investigation.
Unsurprisingly, Donald Trump is saying this is politically motivated. He's talking about the timing being to prevent him making a comeback as another president, get another term. But also, I mean, there are some curious things. I mean, I was reading earlier on that a list of charges appeared on the Fulton County website before the grand jury had voted to return an indictment. And he says, well, look, this is exactly the example. They decided what was going to happen before the grand jury had even made a decision. It feeds into Donald Trump's rhetoric, doesn't it?
Donald Trump has never had a very tethered relationship with the truth. I think this was some sort of scrivener's error. I think they were preparing, for the indictment. I think they probably knew where the grand jury was heading on a lot of this. Was it a little bit awkward? Yes, of course. But does it indicate some broader conspiracy? I think not. I mean, the Fani Willis is as folks saw last night, she's a very concise, undramatic, measured kind of prosecutor. She wasn't out there last night with her hair on fire screaming that Donald Trump was the worst criminal in history. She just laid out the case very methodically, very carefully. And so I think, no matter what the case is, no matter how buttoned up it is, Donald Trump is going to be Donald Trump. He's going to act like Donald Trump no matter what. And so, I think that's sort of priced into all of this, that Trump is trying to feed his fundraising machine, trying to feed the right-wing media ecosystem. And he does that because it's where he's been successful in the last 7 or 8 years. When he feeds that outrage machine, he is successful politically. Now, in court, that's a whole different story.
Been other criminal charges brought against him. He gets an uptick in the polls. His base love that, and it feeds into the narrative that he is being politically targeted. I wonder if this time is different because these charges are about American democracy.
Well, it hasn't stopped his supporters yet from contributing to his campaign and like you said, really just solidifying behind him. It is interesting, however, that this is his campaign now. The indictments are his campaign. It's not policy. It's not, making, America a better place. It's railing against a weaponization of the Department of Justice as he and his supporters see it, that they're coming to get him and he's going to stand there between the government and them. And so this does rile up his supporters. But where I see, and Rick definitely with the Lincoln Project and, Republicans that just can't bring themselves to vote for Donald Trump in a general election, where, to be honest, their voice may be heard louder than some of the state primaries. I really think it comes down, as we know, the independents. And independents are tired of this. This is where the election, I believe, will be won or lost. It is going to be a thin margin either way. But this is democracy. And perhaps because there's this phone call, this audio recording in the Georgia case, where Donald Trump says, hey, I just need 11,780 votes, it may ring a little truer. But politics is a game of addition, and Donald Trump is not adding anything more. He may be solidifying his base, but I just don't see him adding new voters to his fight.